Welcome. Come into an easy kneeling position, Virasana, with as much lift underneath both sit bones evenly between your inner heels so that you can be comfortable in the knees, no joint pain. Some lift underneath the top of the ankles if you need, if there's any cramping in the soles of the feet or if it's just really too hard on tender tops of the feet. So have the toes spread, do so with your fingers if you need to, and the toes right in the same plane as the heels. So the feet are in parallel planes. So today's class we're going to be focusing on moving the energy from upper levels that are often charged with a lot of tension down into the ground. So the mudra we're going to use is Mahashirsha, which means big head, great head, which actually is the energy that is perhaps too congested in the head, moving it down, grounding it. So you're going to take the fourth finger and pull it into the palm and push it into the palm, and then bring the thumb, index finger, and middle fingertips together, and the baby finger extends out. So add a little pressure with that fourth finger on the palm, and then just come into this centered place where you connect with the shins and the tops of the feet on the ground, feeling the stretch along and over the knees and thighs, moving your awareness into the sit bones, and then dropping down weight into the sit bones and lifting up from that. So Virasana, this kneeling position, is one of the best meditation positions because for most people, if there's tight hips, cross-legged can have you slumping the spine. So this gives the most correct posture to the whole of the torso spine, and you can align the head, which is again key to counter a lot of the positions, postures that we adopt very unconsciously throughout our daily activities. So just come into the present moment, take a nice full deep in-breath through the nostrils. Bring it deep into the belly, feeling the belly expand to the front, the sides, and the back, filling up a little bit, maybe 20% into the chest and upper back. And then as you exhale, do so slowly and smoothly. Continue with the focus 100% on this breathing, slowing it down, increasing the volume, evening it out between the in-breath and the out-breath so they're similar lengths. And just overall, doing this in a relaxed way to create a nice, long, deep breath. Feeling the energy rise up, lift, and bring lightness into the upper body. And on the exhale, shedding any tension through the body, feeling the skin on the back body just drop down towards the earth. Noticing where you're stretching in the legs, that becomes more easy. So Mahashirsha is really an attempt to move a lot of tension from the upper body, especially the head, the jaw, mouth area, the neck, and release it. So especially if you are prone to headaches or any congestion in the head, any problems in the neck, in the mouth and jaw, this is a very helpful mudra for this. Overall, it just reduces muscular tension in the body. And so is a yin practice, very helpful for that, because you learn to relax the muscles. You learn to notice where there's muscular tension, bring attention to that area and consciously release it. So it's helpful for reducing stress, creating calm. It improves the downward flow of energy. This is the releasing, the surrendering flow. So if there's congestion of any sort, including with any movements out of the body, whether that be sweat or with menstrual periods or with elimination, bowel movements, this is also helpful for that energetic flow down. So we're increasing our stability through the earth element, our flow through the water element, and we're decreasing the elements of fire, a kind of agitation, the heat, and the air, that tendency to be in our minds and thoughts all the time. So key words here are comfort and ease. So tap into your own circumstances and explore perhaps where you really need to cultivate these, what aspects of your life. If it's overall and general, great. If it's specific, focus on those specific areas where you want to create more comfort and ease. See that energy within your practical life, feel it, and state an intention towards this end, bringing all those modalities together. Express that intention and send it into your future life, beginning with this moment. Release the mudra now. Stretch through your fingers and hands. Open up the hands, the fingers really wide, and interlace and squeeze the hands, fingers together. Open them up really wide again and then interlace them the other way. So if the left baby finger was on the bottom, the right now is on the bottom. Open up and another set. Squeezing, inhaling, open, exhaling, squeezing. And then open and just do some hand rolls. You're rolling in through the wrist in both directions and then shake out the hands. And let's come off the lift, and we're going to come onto our back bodies and start by bringing attention and opening the tension and congestion in through the lower joint. So we're going to start with the hips. Of course, the hips are never just ultimately an area in themselves. So you're going to come into a constructive rest position. Only put a lift underneath the head if the head is tilted naturally in such a way that the chin is a lot higher than the forehead. Then just put enough lift underneath so that the forehead and chin are similar heights off the floor. So in constructive rest position, you're going to walk the feet away from each other and walk your right foot off the mat and roll that thigh inwards so the knee drops down towards the floor. The sole of the foot becomes parallel with the wall, in this case, so that the inner edge, the big toe side, the inner heel are on the floor. And so if there's knee challenges here, you might need to support the right inner knee. So what we're doing is we're stretching this inner hip joint, the right inner hip joint, and we're rolling it in. So creating stretch, and you'll feel where that is. And you're just dropping the left knee out to the left, keeping the spine straight. This will lift the right waist back off the floor, and you try to relax it down. So we're looking for approximately a 90-degree angle between the shin bone and the thigh bone, with the right knee lined up with the right hip and the right shoulder. So get those alignment pieces in place. A lift underneath the right inner knee if you need, just to release any pain that might be there. Never forcing this. And if you have the capacity to go a little deeper, you're going to pick up the left foot and bring the outer ankle on the outside of the right knee thigh area. That just adds a little weight. Don't force it, just let the natural weight of the foot and leg to bring the right knee a little closer towards the floor. Now relax the arms out to the side. And because this is a yin class, we're going to focus on the yin principles. So one of those principles is to adopt a position that you're feeling some stretch. There's definitely sensation in the body. It's not sharp pain, but there are these dull discomforts of the stretch. And you're going to breathe into that. And relax into it on the out breath. And once you get into a pose and you're committed to staying there in stillness for at least a minute and a half, your focus is on the breathing and to relax into it. And to occasionally scan elsewhere in the body where there may be congestion or contraction, often unconscious. And this is often in the face, so the jaw and the mouth. So relaxing those areas. If ever, when you're in a position, it gets to be too much and you're not able to relax or pain starts to happen, always be conservative and move either out of it completely or ease up on the depth of the position. Preparing to release and just shift out of this now. You're going to slide the top foot off if it's there, and then very carefully and slowly, simultaneously lift the right knee a little as you heel toe the foot towards the center. Be very careful with this until the foot, knee, and hip are in the same plane. Pulling up the other leg and then rocking the knees side to side just to circulate the energy in through that right hip especially. Then come back to center. Reposition the hips if they've gotten out of alignment. And then you're going to walk the feet away from each other and continue to heel toe the left foot right off the mat and internally rotating the left hip, drop the knee towards the floor. Again, you're looking for a lineup of the left shoulder, the left hip, and the left knee, and the lower leg, so the shin bones, about perpendicular, 90-degree angle to the thigh bone. So one leg might be quite different than the other. So if there's knee pain, first thing you can try is to pull the baby toe side of the left foot back up towards the outer knee. In other words, trying to make the sole of your foot more parallel to the wall. Keep letting the left knee drop towards the floor, not forcing it, and continue to relax the left side waist towards the floor. And again here, you can either just drop the right knee out to the right, or if you can apply a little more weight on the left knee without having any sharp pain, do so by lifting that right foot up and bringing the outer ankle on the left thigh by the outer left knee and soften into it. Feel where the stretch is for you. Explore on the inhale. Relax on the outhale. Find a rhythm for your breathing to stay present in the body. And with each breath, to go deeper into a relaxed state. occasionally scanning in the head and the jaw, mouth, the neck, and relaxing any tension that happens to be there. Slow the breath down. Any in position that's very challenging for you, it's the perfect one to use a long, slow, smooth breath rhythm. Not just watching the breath, but manipulating it. Slowing it down, smoothing it out, lengthening it. Typically at the beginning of practice, the mind is very active. So if it helps, you count seconds with elongation of the breath. So as you're breathing in internally, you would be counting 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, however high you go. And then as well on the exhale, 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004. Preparing now to come out of this. Slide the top foot off if it's there, and then again very slowly heel toe the foot back towards the mat, letting the knee come back up of that internal rotation leg, the left leg here. Let the right leg come up, and when both feet are back on the ground, then slowly rock the knees side to side. Feel that movement in through the hips. Just noticing where that tension was now is more released. And then come back to center. So the next one we're going to do is Happy Baby. And we're just going to prepare, and you may need a belt. If that's the case, have a belt nearby. You may not need a belt. So we're going to just do a little bit of a more half a position just to test what you need. So you're aligned back on the ground, back body in constructive rest position, pulling the right thigh forward, hug it into the chest. Then bring the right arm to the inside of your right knee and over the top of the right ankle so you can grab around the baby toe side of the foot. And then bring the right foot so it's above the knee. So you're working again towards a 90-degree angle between the shin bone and the thigh bone. And just see if you can be comfortable here without your right shoulder jacking up off the floor. If you can, this is where you're going to have a belt so that you can hold the belt and relax that right shoulder so the shoulder blade is on the floor. And now do the same with the left foot. Okay, so the left knee comes forward, just hug it in, and then bring the foot up. Your left arm comes over the top of the left shin, grabs the outside, baby toe side, and then pulling that down. Again, if you need the belt, you're just going to open up that belt And bring it around the sole of the feet here, preferably the ball of the foot area. Press the feet against the belt and pull the belt down until you can relax the shoulder blades and shoulders fully on the floor. So you're either using a belt or using your hands. Bringing the soles of the feet parallel to the floor. The knees are wider than the width of the abdomen, so that the thighs and the knees come down towards the floor on the outside of the side waists. Relax the face. Again, heels are more or less above the knees, so the shin bones are parallel with the walls, perpendicular to the floor. Go into your breathing pattern. Consciously moving the in-breath into where you feel the stretching. Exhaling and relaxing, feeling the muscular tension dissolve. Periodically scanning the whole body, especially where you tend to hold on to tension in the upper body. That could be shoulders, neck, head, jaw, mouth, eyes. The tailbone comes way off the floor. Part of your internal awareness is going to try and lengthen that back pelvis area, sacrum area, to draw the tailbone towards the floor. Again, remember, if the mind is easily distracted, thoughts flitting around, count the breathing using an elongated breath form. Preparing now to move out of this. If you're using the belt, just loosen up the grip on it so that you can release the feet down and move the belt off. And then bring the feet back to the ground. Just pause here and feel. Just feel how the circulation returns in the hip, thighs, wherever you really felt it. And then again, rock the knees side to side. Just circulate that the energy in through the hips, in through the pelvis. It's also as nice to massage the sacrum area in the back. And when you're connected with the firm foundation here, massaging, you're working the acupuncture points through the pressure. So just notice how you're feeling. And then roll over to your side and come up into a sitting and have a blanket or two, or blocks and blanket ready to sit on. So we're going to do a pose that is especially releasing for tightness in the glutes and in the hip rotators. So you may want quite a bit of height depending on what the tightness is there. So always let your body show you what you need. So I'm coming up on one folded blanket. That's usually good for me. So this pose, it's called Agni Sambhasana, fire log pose. So we're going to start with the left shin bone parallel to the side of the mat. So this isn't a cross-legged position where the heel is close in by the groin. We're making a triangle shape, if you will, so that the thigh goes out to the side and the shin bone is parallel to the plane of the pelvis, or just line it up with the lying side of your mat. And then the other shin stacks on top. So for many people, this is virtually impossible, okay? So if it is for you, the first thing you try is moving the feet further, your knees further out and your feet closer together. Now, if this isn't comfortable, you could have another blanket in between the foot and ankle. The other thing you can do is a combination of knees wider, feet closer together, with the top foot on the floor in front. And if you do that, you might be able to actually get a little closer. Just try to have the average of your shin bones parallel to the long side of your mat, depending on which way your mat is, of course. But again, creating a triangle shape, not the heels in underneath the back of the thighs, okay? So if this is actually easier for you, then you're going to work towards more stacking the ankles and knees, okay? So in this case, I've got my shins stacked right on top of each other. They're right overlaying the edge of the mat, and I've got my ankle on top of my inner knee and my outer knee on the other side over the ankle. So whatever you're doing, be high enough so that you're not slouching in through the low back, okay? So you can sometimes get deeper into the pose by having your buttocks lifted higher. What you want to make sure you're doing in this is to make sure the natural curves of the spine are present. So once you're in the position, just notice where you feel it. Take a nice deep in-breath, following the breath into that place where you feel it. And as you exhale, settle into it, feeling the upper body lift and the lower body settle more deeply into the ground. Be aware that the spine is vertical and the head is nicely lined above the spine. Again, find the breathing pattern and rhythm that works for you. On those especially heady days where the thoughts are fast and quick and relentless, long, deep, slow, relaxed breath that you're counting. So you're occupying that thinking part of the mind with the counting, helps to pull away and redirect. the attention into the body, into this place where you can rest, restore. If you're in the position and it becomes easier, you might be able to fold forward a little bit to bring a next level of intensity to it. If you're going to do that, be very mindful that you are hinging forward from the hip creases. You're not thrusting forward from the head or rounding the upper spine. You're coming forward simply by bringing the pelvis forward. That's where we want the stretch to be. In through the low back, the glutes, across the back of the pelvis here. And if you can come forward enough that you might be able to rest your head on a lift, do so. Again, without forcing or rounding the spine, the primary lean of this is with the front pelvis reaching forward and then dropping down. And then maybe the middle belly reaching up and forward and then dropping down until your head can perhaps rest, forehead, the brow point, on soft blocks, a lift. If that's not possible, you just make sure that your head is aligned with your spine as much as you're coming forward. And if it's too much, you don't come forward at all. Just stay upright, and that is sufficient. If you are feeling it and it's helping you really focus with the breath to stay present, then that's perfect. Continue to relax the jaw, the mouth, the tongue, the brow, the neck, where you hold tension in the upper body. Preparing now to come out of this position on this side. If you're folded forward, use your hands to gently push up and engage the core to lift up. Pause in the upright position with shoulders above the hips and just notice and feel. And then release the legs one at a time. Align the feet and the knees and the hips, stretching them out. Releasing through the ankles, through the knees, through the hips. And then this second side may be different. So just preparing for it. Again, up on a lift. You might be able to go lower or you might have to come up higher. So this time the right shin bone is down first and the left shin bone stacks on the right. So again, whatever level you're at, make sure if that top knee is way up high, if it's like that, that's forcing a collapse in the spine. So again, the options are, number one, come up with some good solid lifts underneath the buttocks, the sit bones. Number 2, bring the feet so they're closer together. Number 3, bring that top foot on the floor in front of the bottom foot. So just as long as you're feeling some good muscular stretching in there, you adopt the pose that helps you release and where those congested patterns are in your body. So settle into your position now. Come with the shoulders above the hips. Nice natural curves of the back body. Nice deep breaths. Counting if that's the method that's going to help you stay more present. Again, if this is fairly straightforward for you, you're going to add the forward fold, coming forward with the pelvis so that you're hinging at the hip creases. You're lifting the spine up and forward as you start to hinge forward. So you're feeling this more in the glutes, the muscles around the sacrum, the back of the pelvis, the low back. If you come forward, or even if you're upright, you might be able to apply a little pressure on the left thigh down. So if you come forward, your forearms can naturally come down in order to apply a little pressure. And again, if you come forward enough that you can rest your forehead on something without rounding the spine, there's a little rounding of course, but mostly you're just folding the upper body forwards, then rest the forehead. Return to your breathing pattern. Return to the awareness in the physical body, sensation, consciously adding that layer of surrender and release, outward flow. Releasing all the tensions of your life that tend to congest in the muscular body. Anytime in a pose that feels too intense, you back it up. Anytime you stop losing a certain amount of sensation, it gets too easy, then go deeper into it. Preparing to come out of this side now. If you're folded forward, use your core and your hands to help you lift up. Pause in the upright position. Once the shoulders are above the hips, align the head. And then again, release the legs one at a time and slowly. The slow movements between poses are very important so that there isn't a kind of rubber band pulling back right into the old positions. So you can keep the space that you're creating in the joints. So we're going to move now into frog pose, and for this you may need quite a few more props, lifts. If you have a standard bolster, which is the size and shape of about a stack of 2 of these folded blankets, then you can bring that into place, and you might even need more than that. You can just have, your supports there, and you may also need 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 blocks for underneath the pelvis. Also, unless you are, have some carpet or something like that, you will need another blanket on one side of your mat. And this is on the floor, so it moves out. So what we're going to do is we're basically opening the inner thighs. So I've walked my knees away from being underneath my hips, and the left knee is right at the edge of the side of the mat, and the right knee is in the same plane on this blanket, and I'm going to let that slide out until I'm at this point where I need some support underneath the pelvis. And I'm going to adjust my bolster or my blanket so it's right in line with the pelvis. And I'm going to rest my pelvis on that lift. Keep the knees in the same plane as the hips. If that's too much, they can be slightly forward or slightly back. Okay? But I want the pelvis supported and also the belly supported. So the spine's nice and long here. And you can turn the head to the right or to the left. It doesn't really matter, just as long as it's not exacerbating any kind of pain or creating pain. And so in this position, we're really going for opening the inner thigh, inner groin area, inner side of the joints of the hips. Now, if there's knee pain here, one way you can try to release that is bring the feet towards each other. So it's a little more like a child's pose, if you will, right? Otherwise, you keep the feet, the shin bones, again, kind of parallel to the thigh bones. And you're getting your pelvis as close to the floor as you can. Spine is nice and long again, and then turn the head in whatever directions. You might get a little stretch here. Forearms are resting on the ground, and then just let yourself go. Resting on the supports. Feeling the tension drain away. Now as you scan your body, noticing if there's areas where you're clenching. And where you notice, bring some loving attention with your in-breath and relax them on the out-breath. Just let the tension, the clenching just dissolve, to drain out. Often there's a big shift at about 90 seconds. And if you feel like you could go a little deeper at that point, then adjust accordingly so you can come a little lower, a little deeper. So I went from 2 blocks to a block and a blanket. It's nice to go down in stages, so the body can stay relaxed as you go deeper.
your buttocks is up quite high. You may have to engage a little bit of the lower abdominal muscles by pulling the pubic bone towards the navel to keep the low back and sacrum long, so you're not aggravating any compression issues there. Preparing to come out of this now. Lift your head, adjust your hands back so you can press and engage the core and lift up and drag the knee that's draggable over towards the center and bring the both knees closer together, hip distance apart. And then in this table position, do some hip pelvic circles, rolls here, just to move that energy in. And then the final set of poses is going to be a reclining twist. So what this will do is to move and to link all that spaciousness we've created in the legs and the hips and the pelvic area, really working those first two chakra areas in the physical body. So again, only use enough lift underneath the head, if any at all, so that your chin is not excessively higher than your forehead. So come into a constructive rest position again and walk the heels in till they're underneath the knees. Bring the feet and the legs together. Then cross the right leg over the left. If you can tuck your right foot underneath your left lower leg, do so. If you can't, it's not a big deal. You just kind of hug the outer edges of the legs together. Now pull the foot that's on the floor up closer to the toe and then roll the knees over to the left side. So here you may want to have a lift underneath the knee that's coming towards the floor. Make sure it's comfortable. If a block isn't comfortable, use a blanket or use a block with a blanket on top so that you're getting the stretch but your knee isn't hanging out in space. Now we're going to deepen this twist by pressing through the head, lifting the upper back off the floor, and rotating, twisting a little more deeply so that the left shoulder in this case goes out to the left and up towards the head direction a little more, and the right shoulder blade comes more on the floor. You can do that a few times. Pressing through the back of the head, lifting the upper back off the ground, rotating, squeezing, twisting a little more, and then resting back down. So when you're at this nice place where you can feel a rotation, a twisting all the way up the spine and a stretch on the outer thigh, hip, buttocks, it'll be focused on where you need it the most. Feel all that so you're in a place where you're feeling some good stretch, and then soften into it, settle in, and connect with your breath. Now you can turn your head to that same, to the right in this case, continuing that twist through the upper body, or to the left, whatever feels like you're not aggravating anything, but you're getting that stretch continuous. Long, deep breaths. So at this point, you can start to just watch the breath if the mind is quiet enough. If it's not, then long deep breaths and counting, or long deep breaths. Practicing your breathing in the in practice is very helpful to grow your ability to take long, smooth, deep breaths. To cultivate as much in-breath as out-breath. To connect with the life force energy that is your breath. Prepare now to transition out of this. So bring the head to center if it's turned off to one side. Relax that outer arm down by the side, and then using the feet, the core, pull the knees back up to center. Undo the hook and the cross and realign the pelvis and come to this center position. So in order to prepare to go to the other side, bring your supports, if you have some underneath your knees, to the other side. And also rock and roll your knees and hips side to side, just to integrate. And then coming back to center with the inside edges of the feet and legs together, cross the left leg, thigh over the right, and again, try to hook the foot underneath. If it doesn't hook, no problem. Both ways, bring the foot off the floor or forward as high as you can, and then roll the knees over to the right side. Rest the knees on some height so that ultimately, if you can, both shoulder blades are going to be on the floor. If that's not appropriate or possible for you, kind of the knees and the outer, in this occasion, the left shoulder blade, both are going to be a little off the floor. Right? So from here, press through the back of the skull, lift the upper back off the floor, rotate the spine a little more to the left, and lower that right shoulder blade further away from the anchor point of your right hip towards the top of the mat, letting the left shoulder blade come down towards the floor. Again, you can do that a couple of times to create more length and twisting in the spine. And then maybe the head turns off to the left, continuing that spiral of the whole of the vertebrae. Excellent for releasing tension along the whole of the spine. Twisting is really the only way that you create space between the vertebrae. To twist those vertical short ligaments. When you twist the spine, then they move diagonally and they stretch. And when you do so in a yin position, where you relax the muscles and the connective tissue that really holds them into a rigid alignment or structure, this is what really releases it. Shifting to your breath now. dissolving all tension that you notice in the muscular body. Surrendering it out. Preparing to shift out of this now, drawing the head to look upwards, pulling the knees back up, feet back onto the center space of the mat, undoing the hook and cross of the legs, bringing the back of the pelvis flat to the ground, just pausing in constructive rest position, rocking the knees side to side to circulate the energy through the stretch, feeling it all the way up the spine, through the pelvis and hip joints. And then set yourself up for just a minute or two of deep relaxation. You should already be relaxed. But this is just the final fine-tunement. You can have a lift underneath the knees if you like. If there are low back issues, you can bring a eye pillow on top of the eyelids so that it helps you go deeper, quicker into that space of integration. Draw your awareness back to the physical body. Just notice if energetically you feel a greater communication within and between various systems of the body, between the energy bodies, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. And then begin to bring some movement, stretching through your toes and your feet and ankles, wiggling your fingers, stretching through the hands and wrists, and then the arms, and then bending the knees and placing the feet on the floor. Rock your knees side to side and feel the massage up the spine. Again, being aware of the more spacious feeling within the body, the greater sense of communication. And then roll over to your side, pausing in a fetal position. If you have an eye bag on and it falls off, just keep your eyes closed. Pausing here to connect back with your intention, to feel it, to see it, to inwardly affirm it through words. And then pressing yourself up into a kneeling or an easy sitting position. Coming to center in this position. Back into the heart with your hands in prayer position at the heart. Feeling centered in this place. Feeling more grounded and connected to the earth and to the natural flowing rhythm of water within you. Bring a little inner smile throughout. And take a moment to thank yourself for taking this time for self-care. The comfort and ease within me bows to the comfort and ease within you. Namaste. And thank you for practicing today.